tried to do a bunch of things during the summer, but it just really didn't work out. I mean, it just it just dates and just different times. Just it was pretty hard to meet up.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Everything was crazy this summer.
But it's good to finally be back.
It's good to be back. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we're settled in on campus. Everything's going well. I don't think numbers are too high here.
Yeah, I think it's less than 1% of the population is currently
definitely.
positive for COVID.
Yep.
So I mean, this is going to be the first weekend. It's going to really test the COVID population here. It's going to be definitely tough, but
Oh yeah.
if we can persevere through this and make it to Thanksgiving, we're all the better for it.
Yep.
All right.
So let's get into things. We'll kick it off with a little bit of talk from the NBA. There's a lot that we have to cover. Obviously, we haven't been able to talk about much because this is the first time you guys are seeing us since the quarantine special, but we'll kick it off.
All right. So in the NBA, obviously, pretty big news. Players have been boycotting games for. They boycotted at least one day of the playoffs, and I think they're picking either back up today or Saturday. Now, while it's obviously we're not going to probably. I don't think we're going to talk about the specifics of why they're boycotting, but we do know that they are boycotting.
Yep.
So here's the thing: it's back now, and LeBron apparently left a players meeting early, and that there's just a lot of drama going on. So who do you think this hurts the most, like player wise, and like who do you think maybe even people talk about load management? What is this possibly going to help some teams?
Well, I mean, I think that sitting out some games is a big statement, especially if you're not doing it for your own health like most players do. Especially in a time right now, everyone wants basketball, and when you take that away from people, people are going to get fired up. I think it's a good thing for the players. You're making a statement. You're getting a little bit of rest time, but in the end, we all want to watch basketball, and I'm sure they, to some extent, just want to play basketball. So,
yeah, I mean, if you think about all the high school teams, all the college teams that have had their seasons basically taken from them. I mean, state championships were basically interrupted for winter sports going on, spring sports like the baseballs and tracks of the world. They didn't even have a shot at a season. So I mean, they were really robbed. So I kind of feel that I don't know. I think the NBA players, I mean, they're in a bubble, but in a sense, they're almost like metaphorically in a bubble as well. That they don't kind of realize that they almost need to kind of be the driving force and the inspiration behind these athletes that maybe got their seasons cut short.
okay. Yeah, I think. What's next?
Oh, so basically, this is a tough one. I think that this whole player sitting out thing. I mean, one of the big people behind this and proponents behind it was LeBron James, and he basically said, and I mean, he left the meetings early about this, and do you think this kind of like shows how like players view the bubble and how LeBron views the bubble?
I mean, the bubble is something that anyone would struggle with. I mean, in a sense, it almost feels like a boiled down March Madness for NBA players because they're being thrown into this situation that, I mean, they're basketball players. They get paid millions to play their sport, play basketball, but on such a large scale, you can almost use that sort of a voice to an extent. I don't think the players sitting out has anything to do with the people that had their seasons taken away. I think the NBA players sitting out is more just to make a stand and to prove something, because in the end, we didn't want to talk about it this much, but there are issues that need to be solved, and I think it raises a lot of awareness because people like basketball.
Yeah, people do.
Yeah.
And I mean, all these other sports are sitting out right now. It's pretty volatile. It's pretty hectic. But I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know if for baseball, you've seen a lot of this stuff happen. NHL, you are seeing players sitting out now. I don't know if to the extent of the players' anger and everything going on in the playoffs. I don't know how they would be going if there were still fans in the stands. Personally, all of these teams, I don't know how it would be going if there were fans in the stands and if this was a normal year by any measure, which obviously it is not.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering if LeBron and all the other players are kind of viewing this bubble, and if things were, a bit more normal right now, I'm wondering if the bubble kind of is just obscuring them and making them go, well, this isn't real basketball. I mean, what does this really have to do with anything? I mean, we can kind of, I don't know, it's a tough situation.
And that's what makes the bubble so interesting. It's because anything could happen.
True.
It's not your traditional playoff scheme. It's a bubble.
Yeah.
Nobody
absolutely.
knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's definitely a tough situation. I mean, just being in the bubble, everything's just crazy down there.
Yeah, I'm just excited for years later when all these documentaries are going to start coming out about this year specifically in sports, because this is a historical time that we're living through.
Absolutely.
I mean, we could never see something like this in our lifetime again, the way that sports are being played right now. It's wild, and I think there are going to be some stories that come out about players going through some things that we could have never imagined.
Absolutely.
Ever.
I mean, I think I tweeted out something a little while back when the whole bubble idea was started, and I think that if a 30 for 30 was started, basically just about like how players are down in the bubble, if you could get cameras inside like those player meetings and talking about that stuff, I think that's really interesting material, because you're going to be able to get that. You're going to kind of be able to get that inside scoop and see how players communicate with each other from a way that it's never really seen too much.
Yeah, because traditionally players will see each other on the court and then maybe after a game briefly, but that's it. But these players have to go back and potentially live together.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen.
I mean, and also, I don't know what the restrictions are down in Orlando, but I mean, from what I can tell, it seems pretty. I mean, it seems pretty lax once these players are all negative and they're in there. I don't know if how intense the social distancing is, but it seems like the players are having fun down there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know JaVale McGee is like vlogging stuff down there. If they're able to like take some footage from like what he's doing, and like I'm guessing there's footage from other players that we haven't seen yet. I mean, it's
definitely.
I know Paul George is fishing down there. I know players are having a ton of fun down there.
Yeah.
If like we could get a documentary just showing like the inside scoop of that, and I feel like it could be really interesting.
Definitely. There's going to be some interesting stuff coming out soon for sure.
I completely agree. So since I believe the boycott is over for now and the players are back, who do you think has a shot? Who do you think has a good shot at the title right now?
As much as I hate saying this because I say it every year, the Celtics. The Celtics look great. I mean, we just swept the Sixers. We have the Raptors next. The Raptors do not scare me as much as some other teams, like the Bucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. But the Celtics,
they honestly are a team that's kind of made for this situation, because they really have perfected positionless basketball. They are able to, sub guys in and out at multiple positions, and they seem to have great depth. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that is definitely going to benefit them. I think LeBron and the Lakers are definitely going to be a strong threat. But personally, as much as I want this to be the Celtics, I think unfortunately Tatum and the others are just a couple years away. So personally, if Kawhi gets going, I think it's the Clippers. Personally,
you think it's the Clippers?
If Kawhi gets going and does what he does, and Paul George, who was struggling early, but he's come around lately. If he continues to do so, I think great things can happen.
How is that series right now? Is it 2-2?
I don't know. Let me check in on that.
Watching the Mavs and the Clippers play it's entertaining. Luka Doncic is something different.
Yeah. So let me see. Series. Yeah. So personally, I mean, you saw what Kawhi did last year. The guy's a monster. If I'm being honest with you,
This may be a pretty hot take about the Celtics, but Gordon Hayward injured right now. Mm-hmm. I really don't hate it. I don't hate it whatsoever, because every single time, at least it seems like every single time I watch the Celtics, Gordon Hayward is either turning the ball over or missing a rebound.
Yeah. It looks right now that I believe the Clippers are up 3-2 in the series, so they have a shot to put it away whenever they're playing next.
Clippers are up 3-2.
That's what I'm getting from this site, but
does Luka Doncic cause concern? Because everyone thought he was going to be out for weeks.
I mean, Luka definitely causes concern. The guy's a freak.
Yes.
I mean, the guy is a freak.
You can't not be concerned when Luka's on the court.
Yeah. I mean, the Mavs really looked up. They got two insane European players back to back. They got Dirk and they got Luka, and it looks like Luka's going to be in it for the long haul. I think he is going to be a big leader for the Mavericks down the road, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
And Mark Cuban even said that he would rather divorce his wife than get rid of Luka
Yeah.
Doncic.
I mean, I mean, to have that much dedication to a player, and obviously, we know Mark Cuban is jokingly saying that,
Yeah.
but honestly, I think Mark Cuban is so dedicated to Luka. I mean, he's the future of the franchise completely.
I feel like Mark Cuban is just a dedicated owner, and that's why the Dallas Mavericks are such a good, well-known, well-rounded franchise to play for.
Definitely. I mean, they're going to be one of the best. They're going to be honestly one of the great teams to look forward to over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, Luka theoretically hasn't even hit his prime yet.
And we talk about teams being good in the future. What about the Nets next year?
Nets next year, I mean, KD's going to be back. It's really going to depend how good is KD, after the Achilles, and is Kyrie. I mean, we saw that there was a lot of toxicity in Boston, and he was able to. I believe, he propelled the Nets to a playoff spot, which on his own, that's very good. I mean, the Nets are a very young, well-rounded team.
Yeah.
If KD can, come back and be strong, and him and Kyrie can, have a good symbiotic relationship and work off each other, I think good things are going to come for the Nets. I hope the Celtics can have better things coming, but I mean, the Nets will be an interesting, force in the East for the next couple of years.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
Going off of what you said, I think if that KD Kyrie connection can fulfill itself a little bit, I think if there's no issues there, the Nets, they're a championship team.
I think so.
You got two players who have Kyrie has a ring, KD has 2, 3.
KD has 2 rings.
So the experience is there. You get both of those guys on a team. The only thing that concerns me is the toxicity.
Yeah.
Especially with Kyrie, because my opinions on Kyrie Irving.
I mean, KD also has his track record. I mean, there were problems with him in Golden State. I mean, it's obviously the reason why I think he left Golden State, because he didn't feel appreciated enough, because he just thought from the get-go that it was Steph's team when he thought he was obviously the better player.
But I mean, what was he doing when he signed?
Winning him championships.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If he felt like that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think if you're going to sign with a team where you already have a superstar point guard, you kind of have to check your ego at the door. Because I mean, you did great. You won 2 championships. You went to many more finals, and you know what? It was a good run. But just accept that you won the championships, and be the best player you can on Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Just dominate, be yourself, and I hope that he's going to be in the best health possible when he's on the court.
Because we know if you're an opponent of KD, he is a cause for concern.
Definitely. The guy is a freak of nature. I mean, nothing like
I'm excited to see how things play out in Brooklyn next year.
Absolutely.
I mean, KD coming back. Last time we saw him play was the playoffs before this season, last year's playoffs.
Yeah.
And he was going off until he got injured, so hopefully he can just pick up right there. Unless they're facing the Celtics, then I don't hope that.
Yeah, he was going crazy.
Yeah.
So what else in the NBA is really interesting you right now?
Well, I think we got to talk about the Lakers a little bit.
Yeah?
And that series against the Trailblazers.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Damian Lillard, he's something. When we talk about Luka, you can't not mention
Damian
Lillard
is one of the most underappreciated guys in the game.
Yeah.
He's a special talent. But I mean, being up in Portland, I mean, he's been able to challenge some of the great teams in the West. He's challenged Golden State. I mean, unfortunately, he doesn't have the talent around him to be, a better, to have a better product around him. But the guy is a really special talent.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, watching those games, you can watch Damian Lillard sink 3 threes from 30 plus feet.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing.
Absolutely.
Like nothing.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I think the lack of talent around Lillard is going to end up costing him again in this series. But and I believe before everything started with the boycotts, I think he was out for Game 5. I believe with the lower leg injury.
Oh, the lower leg. Oh, the pinky was nothing. To that
that was nothing. Yeah, no. Lillard's not worried about a freaking pinky.
Yeah.
No, Lillard's a cyborg.
But yeah.
Nah. So I don't know if he's gonna be good now because of the extra time off. If he is, awesome, and maybe he can really help maybe he can swing a series. But it's gonna be real tough. It's gonna be very tough. I mean, the Lakers. Obviously, you got LeBron James. Some would say he's the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan, I would argue, but different argument.
But I mean, LeBron in the playoffs, very fierce competitor.
Absolutely.
Doesn't get beat often.
Mm-hmm.
Damian Lillard, while he's a freak of nature, he also has a reputation of coming up short in the playoffs.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, he has big moments in the clutch. I mean, he has multiple buzzer beaters though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has multiple buzzer
He
beaters.
does.
I wouldn't say it's more Lillard's fault. Again, I would say it's the lack of talent around him.
Exactly.
I mean, if you give him the ability to come up clutch, a lot of times he will come up clutch.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. Damian Lillard, if he has, a good team around him, if you give him that opportunity, don't. Because it's going to
And that's
poorly.
not taking anything away from the talent that is around him on the Blazers, because CJ McCollum, he could do some of the same things that Damian Lillard can most of the time. I know they have a good center. I can't put my finger on his name. Nurkic, yeah. He's very good, very talented as well. But, I mean, it's clear that the Portland Trail Blazers are missing something, and they have yet to fulfill that because they keep coming up short in the playoffs.
It's unfortunate, but they almost need like a good slasher or someone who Dame, if he needs to, can dish to, because Dame's an aggressive guy, but he can't. But having him go down the middle and trying to score at the basket, that's insanely tough for him.
Yeah.
So they need almost like a guy that can just get to the rim and just score easily. I mean, like, it's tough. It really is.
You're
tough.
right. I see it. You look at other superstars like LeBron, and he can do anything.
Yeah.
If the Blazers had a guy, obviously nobody's going to have another LeBron.
Oh yeah.
But
no.
if they had a guy to that similar capacity, they're a better team.
I would say they just need a good, tall, quick forward who can just get it to the basket. That's all. That's all they really need. I would say personally, that's what they need.
I see it. Yep.
Yeah. So, a quick transition now. MLB. So the Red Sox this year are freaking awful.
Not looking too hot.
They have been atrocious this year.
Atrocious.
I mean, I believe that they have, from what I can see, they have a majors, I believe, worst team ERA of 6.05. The offense also hasn't come together. I mean, this is after trading Mookie Betts away. Not the greatest look.
That starting pitcher rotation is.
Yeah.
It's painful to look at.
John Henry really banked on this. Really kind of just like he really just punted on the season in February. He kind of just realized, what's it worth? What's it kind of worth? Doing stuff for a 60-game season when it's not going to count for anything. And I can understand that you need to get below the luxury tax and all that. But at the same time, I almost see it as you have a 60-game season, you can make up for some faults where you have some weaknesses. But instead, he's just going to go out and sign just run-of-the-mill guys like Martin Perez and all these other guys who really can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's also unfortunate that guys like Sale and Rodriguez, went down for the year, we couldn't have predicted that. If they had been around, maybe they would have pressed harder. Yeah. But it's tough. One of the bright spots, though, has been Alex Verdugo. He is the return of the Mookie Betts deal, and while he isn't Mookie Betts, he's definitely playing with passion out there, and he just seems to love just being a member of the Boston Red Sox.
I see it. Yes.
Yeah. From when he arrived in spring training, he has shown that he is a massive, massive fan of David Ortiz. Ran up to him, gave him a giant bear hug. He's playing pretty good ball right now. He's still young. I believe he's 23 right now. So he has a lot of chance to improve. If he can be just a solid, even if he's an above average guy, but he's a great clubhouse presence and he's great with the fans. I like that, because guess what? If you're just a fan favorite but you're good too, then I'll take that. I hated losing Mookie Betts. I think that's a big mistake for the Red Sox, because I think that as a Major League Baseball team, especially like the Red Sox, you're not the Royals, you're not the Angels, who still managed to pay Mike Trout and will be bad because of that.
Yeah.
But the Red Sox, you're a smart organization and you're a very wealthy organization. I think that you could have found a way to pay Mookie Betts, however much he was worth, and maybe found other ways to pay guys maybe you could have taken money off sales extension.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Nathan Eovaldi isn't worth $63 million, which I believe is what he signed for.
Yeah.
So I think that it's the poor spending they've done over the years. Pablo Sandoval for I think 5 years, $100 million.
Pablo Sandoval.
Hanley Ramirez for 4 years, and I believe 90. All these bad signings really kind of led the Sox to be in this situation, and it's unfortunate because guess what? You had to get rid of the guy that you really wanted to sign.
And going back to Alex Verdugo a little bit, it was a concern of mine that he maybe wasn't going to be a fan favorite based on some things that happened off the field.
Mm-hmm.
But now when I watch him play, and you were talking about the David Ortiz thing, when there are fans, I think 100% that guy will be a fan favorite.
I'm hoping so.
He shows the signs.
I mean, obviously Mookie was a giant fan favorite,
Yeah.
but even if he's just like the typical guy, like like kids are gonna want to take pictures with him before the games, like he's gonna, fans are gonna be giving him big cheers when he's coming up to bat.
Yeah.
Even if it's more just like, just of a more of a just a fan, like kind of just getting around him. He doesn't even need to be as good as Mookie, but if he can get the fans into a game, then I think that's awesome for the Sox.
Yeah, especially in this age of baseball.
Definitely
it needs it.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, great personalities are what drives the sport.
Yes,
it definitely drives the sports. Also in baseball, I mean, we've seen this isn't like too recent, but it's kind of going over the scope of this entire 60-game sprint to the playoffs. The entire MLB coronavirus response has been kind of all over the place. I mean, like you've had multiple ball clubs test positive. I mean, you've had the Cardinals, the Marlins, others to just name a few, but Juan Soto was one of the biggest ones to test positive literally before opening day, and then he wasn't eligible to play with them that year.
Yep.
Well, at least for the start of the year. So I mean, and now because of that, the Nationals are in last place in their division. So I mean, it's a tough. I mean, when you lose a player, it's going to be tough. But one of the things that has surprised me about even when they lose players, the Miami Marlins, who have been like historically bad for almost as long as I can remember. I don't think they've only made the playoffs. I believe it's only 2 times, and they've won the World Series both times, which is very funny in my opinion. But they are currently 14-12. They're only 2 games back of the Braves in the division, and I mean, to think about it, they were one of the teams hit the absolute hardest by COVID. I mean, they got wiped out.
The way that the MLB handles any issue that's thrown at them, I'll say it. We were preaching it back in February, and we'll keep saying it again. Rob Manfred.
Yeah, he's got to go. That guy has Rob Manfred, in my opinion, is one of the most. I mean, he is the most clueless, and he is the worst commissioner in all of the 4 major sports.
Completely agree.
I mean, he makes Roger Goodell look on par with Adam Silver.
That's not even an opinion. That's a fact.
I mean, this guy has made blunder after blunder, and he's honestly made a mockery of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's really gotten under the skin of baseball fans, and it's just that he just doesn't have basically an idea of what the fans want and how to get it to them. Mm-hmm. He thinks he has an idea of what the fans want and then does the exact opposite.
Yep.
So
as it seems, yes.
But he's I think locked in I think until 2024 because all the owners just re-upped his contract, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So please, when his contract is up, do not renew it. We need to get someone in there that is going to really push the age forward of baseball with these new players and really give these players a good voice and pump up the product, because the only player these guys know the only player these guys know how to market and represent is Mike Trout. Mm-hmm. And that's because he is one of the greatest players ever. But you have the NBA who can represent LeBron, Giannis, and can even go down to like second tier players, like even you can go to a Klay Thompson, who's also great. But I mean, you look at these players and you can go through all these different players who you think of NBA and you think of, oh yeah, these are great players. You go to baseball and most fans can't even think of Mike Trout. That is a huge problem with baseball. I mean, like the average fan doesn't know who. I mean, like the casual fan doesn't know who Christian Yelich is.
You're right.
He almost won 2 MVPs.
Yeah, it just shows like how much baseball has lost relevance in the past years.
I think the one bright spot though of baseball's marketing team has usually been their social media, because they just get it. They know how to be fun with the product. They know how to like kind of get the fans involved. They reply to comments under posts on Instagrams. They have a very lively and Twitter presence.
Yeah.
They really know how to handle themselves well on that platform. So that is one of the things. Whoever runs their social media should honestly, work to maybe get involved in the inner workings of the upper management, and because I think they could really, get some more life, going back into the game, because the game needs it.
Definitely. And talking about social media, that's one of the things I miss the most about the XFL.
Oh, geez.
Their social media was unreal. It was amazing, and
yeah,
it does help an organization a lot.
Yeah.
Social media it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's on social media, so you got to make sure it runs smoothly.
Yeah. Speaking of the XFL, I know that you were pretty bummed to see that go. I know we talked about it
I was bummed
back in April. All right, so if you want to talk about that a little more about the XFL's
I think
revival.
most people probably know that the XFL was purchased by
Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
The Rock, yes, and someone else, a co-buyer, something like that.
I'm not sure about
manager,
that, but I mean, are you?
The XFL is happening regardless.
Yeah, I mean, when do you think it's gonna make its comeback?
Well, I can't really put my finger on when, but I think there's no better man to own a professional football league than Dwayne the Rock Johnson, because he knows what it's like. He played in the CFL, I'm pretty sure.
He played in college.
He played in college.
He did play in college.
He didn't play in the CFL.
I don't believe so.
Okay. So
but similar to Vince McMahon, he's also a wrestling personality.
Yeah.
He knows how to like create a show, which is what the XFL thrives on. So I think that actually is a great idea that Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
But the Rock
is
knows exactly what it's like to be an aspiring NFL player and not make it.
Yeah.
And that's what the XFL really stands for, and that's what I think the Rock is going to drive into it.
Definitely. I mean, you think of WWE and you think of the theatrics that go on with that, and if the XFL is able to kind of take that mantra and inject it into their game, it's going to be for the best.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, speaking of the other football league that we
the other football league, that one
that we deal with, in the NFL we have obviously, since we haven't talked since April. Big news has gone on there for the Patriots. We sadly had to see Tom Brady go after freaking 2 decades of just pure dominance in the AFC for the New England Patriots. 6 Super Bowl titles, 9 appearances, just amazing legacy for Tom Brady.
Yep.
So unfortunately, he's now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, but the Patriots have gone and made the blockbuster signing of Cam Newton for about $1 million.
Tom Brady, who's that guy? Who's that guy?
Yeah. So what do you
moved on?
So Cam Newton obviously is a drastically different player from Tom Brady,
yes.
Both player wise and personality wise. It's a very like drastic change, I think, at the quarterback position. What do you think? How do you think the Pats are gonna deal with that?
Well, I mean, let me go way back a little bit, okay?
All right.
Watching The Last Dance, the Dennis Rodman episode, you see with a guy like Dennis Rodman, obviously Cam Newton is nowhere near Dennis Rodman's personality level.
Oh yeah, Dennis Rodman was.
You give a player with a personality
insane.
The room to have their personality, and they're gonna thrive off of that.
Yeah,
that's what Rodman needed. He needed his space to be himself to perform. And I think if Belichick sort of shifts his mind away from this is the Patriot way to, okay, we have a very talented guy under center, and if I leave him to somewhat do his own thing while influencing him in positive ways, I think it's going to be super effective for the Patriots. And I think Cam Newton will have much better relationships with half of the new receivers than Tom Brady did last season.
Yeah. Something I've compared the Cam Newton signing to, in my opinion, I don't know if you would agree with me on this. Personally, it's either going to go one way or the other. But if it goes this way and he's successful, it kind of reminds me of people doubted Kawhi Leonard when he got injured in San Antonio, and they had a lot of questions surrounding his health. I mean, they were like, he suffered a pretty bad injury to his leg. People are concerned about him. Is he going to be healthy? How is he going to do? And then he ends up going to the Toronto Raptors and dominating and winning a championship for him.
Yeah.
So is Cam Newton going to be a guy that can face all that adversity, face the injuries, not play for basically almost 2 years, and come to the Patriots and be dominant? I'm not saying he can win a Super Bowl, but I mean, if he has a shot to get to the playoffs and have a good run.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can both agree that Cam Newton is a great player and Kawhi Leonard is also a great player.
Yeah.
I guess all he's really going to need is that change of scenery. He has the time off, and he seems like he's very motivated, more than motivated based off of what he posts on his social media and whatnot. But I don't hate it. Most of the other Pats fans that I've talked to don't like the idea of a guy like Cam because all they remember is 2015 Panthers. That's what most Pats fans remember. But if you have this open mind to this very talented quarterback,
Well, in your opinion, why do you think that's a negative that they remember the 2015 Panthers? What about that team do you see as the negative? Obviously, the Super Bowl,
well,
like
Cam
obviously
Newton,
not making the
he's
Super Bowl.
flashy.
Yep.
And he's flashy. He likes to dance, and that's not what Pats fans are used to.
Yeah.
He's a very, I don't want to say out there, but he's very flashy and
I mean, he kind of has a persona similar to, similar to great players. I mean, you think of guys like a Deion Sanders. These guys were just like, crazy on and off the field.
yeah.
Dominant, but also were just wild. Cam Newton is one of those guys.
If if he likes the situation, you're gonna know it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
If he doesn't, you will definitely know it.
Definitely, as
So-
he showed in Super Bowl 50 of that same season.
Yeah, when he basically left the podium just sulking his head and was visibly upset.
So he does have some flaws.
But similar to, Belichick's dealt with a lot of guys that have come in. They've had, troubled records. You think of guys like Aqib Talib who had a reputation of being a scrappy player who couldn't really get it together. You think of guys like Corey Dillon. You think of all these other players who've come through the Pat system, and people thought, these guys are done. These guys are at the end of the road. And Belichick is able to get whatever last thing they can out of him. What is the last thing that he can get out of Cam Newton? Is it just this year, and then he thinks it's Stidham time? Or is he able to, really work something out of Cam and find what is deep down inside Cam and get the best out of him?
There's a lot still in the guy.
Yeah.
He's obviously very talented. I think you put him on a team with Belichick, like I said before. If you leave him that room to be himself, but clearly he does have some flaws that need to be exercised and flaws that need to be fixed, and you leave him the room to be himself, but work on changing those flaws, you have yourself a good quarterback.
I agree.
And I think the possibilities are endless.
The other thing though that will depend on Cam Newton's success though is the weapons. I would say the weapons for sure. Belichick is able to design an offense to basically fit any quarterback. You think about Jacoby Brissett. They ended up having him run a naked boot against the Houston Texans. They ended up beating them 28-0. So, I would definitely say Belichick is able to manipulate a game plan to benefit any quarterback he has. But it's definitely this is actually going to be a very challenging thing because. Brady struggled a lot last year because, he didn't have any real solid tight ends. The Patriots just drafted two this year, Devin Asiati and Dalton Keene. So maybe one of those guys can step up and be a big role for Cam. But I think, the running backs, Sonny Michel and James White, they're also going to have to, White is also going to have to continue his role as a receiver as well as Edelman. The guy is a older receiver now. He's in his mid-30s at this point. He's a slot receiver, so that means he's getting hit over the middle of the field a lot. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, what is this guy going to have when it comes to, that's going to be Cam Newton's, essentially his primary target.
And that's why I'll go back to what I said before about Cam Newton being able to connect with the targets a lot better than Brady did. Last year we had two main receivers, rookies.
Yeah, you got N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers.
Exactly. From the perspective of a Patriots fan, I want last season to be erased from the record books.
I completely agree.
It was a disaster.
Yeah.
And look at the way that...
they were arguably one of the worst 8-0 teams possibly in the history of football.
Yeah, and you look at the way that Brady developed with the rookies, and you look at the way that Cam Newton has the potential to develop with those same rookies that played with Brady last season.
Yeah, you've seen videos come out from Cam Newton, and he's shown very impassioned workouts with Mohamed Sanu and all these guys.
And Brady's not on the Patriots anymore. This is Cam Newton's first season on the Patriots. I think obviously he's a lot more motivated. And
I think it's also going to get these guys a lot more rejuvenated because, while Edelman obviously he's literally Tom Brady's little brother. Him and Brady have one of the best relationships in all of football.
Yep.
It's definitely going to be tough seeing, them. It's definitely going to be tough for him, probably not having Brady thrown to him. But getting a dynamic quarterback like Cam Newton in there, it might, be enough of a spark where, basically it reinvigorates a lot of these players, and it's like, all right, let's go, let's.
And that's why last year felt like a slump.
Yeah, it kind of did have the elements of a Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have Brady, who's done it for so long, and I mean, unfortunately, you just didn't have that offense this year, that last year. And if the offense can get that, if the offense can kind of get like basically that spark that I was talking about, and they can just run from the get go. I mean, good things can happen for the Patriots, even though people are putting them under the radar because of just the lack of number 12.
Yeah. If you could pick one Patriots rookie, not a rookie from last season, but a rookie this season, put your finger on one rookie to break out the most, who do you think it's going to be?
So, I mean, in terms of rookies, I mean, I'm hoping that Kyle Duggar can do something for the Pats. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of the pick, but I mean, if the Patriots have great faith in him, I mean, I'm hoping that they can get something out of him. I didn't like the idea that you're taking another defensive back, but I mean, this guy is pretty big for a defensive back. I mean, he's almost at his size, almost a smaller size linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So if he has the speed to cover there, and maybe he can even be a type of guy that covers tight ends. I mean, I know you don't see guys like Kittle in this league, but if he can cover a guy like him, or even a guy like Kelsey, if he can be a defensive back type that can lock that kind of guy up, that'd be a great asset for the Patriots.
I'm gonna have to agree with you, because you don't see a guy like that very often.
Yeah.
Kyle Duggar,
yeah. So I think that's one of the things that could definitely help the Patriots. Also, Dalton Keene and Devin Asiati, the two tight ends. If you can run a two tight end set like the Ravens have, and where they had Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews, if you can do something like that for Cam Newton, who obviously isn't as mobile as Lamar Jackson is at this state in his,
but he's still mobile.
State in his career, but he's still more mobile than Tom Brady.
Yep.
So I mean, if you can have a moving pocket, you have that two tight end set, even if you have them stay back and act as extra blockers, that's going to be a great advantage for Cam Newton. I mean, if you can utilize those two tight ends, and they can be a net positive for the team, as opposed to the two tight ends last year, Ryan Izzo and
Benjamin Watson?
No, it was not Ben Watson.
It was not Ben Watson.
No, Ben Watson actually, I mean, for his age, he actually did pretty solid. I'll give Ben Watson a thumbs up on that.
Yeah.
Matt LaCosse was the other one. Yeah, those two tight ends. I mean, LaCosse showed some promise, but in all honesty, those two were net negatives for the team. They really didn't do too much at all. So if one of those two tight ends, and maybe if LaCosse can get his stuff together, if those tight ends can step up and really be other solid weapons for Cam Newton, or can be great facilitators in the blocking game, I think that's also great. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I think on that. Also in the NFL, Jamal Adams was traded from the New York Jets after basically demanding a trade.
Yeah. This is definitely one of the bigger trades that we've seen.
Yeah. He's now a member of the Seattle Seahawks, and I mean, it may not be the Legion of Boom at this point, but you have a very formidable defense coming back, and it's going to be really interesting to see what these guys do. Because they're just loaded. I mean, they got the Griffin brothers. They have not Jackson. I mean, they have Adams, and they seem to be coming together and having a good defensive set. And Russell Wilson is finally seeming to get some weapons.
Yep.
So that's going to be really interesting for the Seahawks, especially since they're still playing in the same division as the San Francisco 49ers, the former NFC champions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think signing a guy like Jamal Adams can hurt.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh,
especially when you're...
it's definitely not going to hurt. That's going to be a giant positive.
Yeah, but they have a history of having a solid secondary in Seattle.
Yeah. And I mean, also people were arguing like, where is Jamal personality wise? People are like, he ever since he was demanding a trade, people were saying he has a very explosive personality. But I mean, Pete Carroll has been notoriously great at kind of reeling those guys in. I mean, Belichick has taken guys like that similarly, but Belichick has more kind of quashed those things within players, while Pete Carroll kind of finds a way to take those personality points and make it work within the culture of the team.
Make it work, but then the downfall of the Legion of Boom
was that there was
exactly
too many cooks almost.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's going to be tough if it can work out, and you can get that little window of where the defense, they're all kind of on the same page and they're able to just go for it and go for a title. Then that's great, and you have to kind of just roll with that and just brace for when everything starts to go when everything.
And Russell Wilson will never be the weakness in that situation.
No, he will not.
Never.
Russell Wilson might be number 3 of quarterbacks in the game of football, right under Mahomes and Lamar at the moment. So if he can be that guy and just be himself and just be able to get passes off to Lockett and the other guy,
Tyler Lockett.
No, DK Metcalf.
DK
yeah, if he can get passes off to those guys. I don't know how I forgot about DK. He's one of my favorite players.
He's an animal.
I mean, he's almost thinking about size wise. You think we were talking about Kyle Duggar. He's almost has his size, but as a wide receiver.
Yeah, DK Metcalf could easily be a very versatile tight end.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's a slot receiver, but if he was, he would be an insane slot receiver.
Definitely.
The guy is very physical, can take a lot of hits, and that is one of the moves that I'm still saddened that the Patriots didn't take him in the first round, but instead took I believe they took a guard, but I'm not 100% on that. I forget who they took before him. I don't think it was Michelle, but it is what it is. But the Patriots had a shot to take him, and I'm sad that they didn't.
Yeah, I do remember watching that draft and being bummed that we didn't take DK Metcalf.
Yeah,
because he's
tearing up the league now.
Tearing up the league, and he's only going to get better from here.
Absolutely. Barring injury, hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah.
Let's hope that DK can continue to just dominate the league for years to come. Because if he can, good things are going to happen for the Seattle Seahawks.
But
and for Russell Wilson, who is finally getting some weapons back. Weapons he really hasn't had. He hasn't really had too many weapons, I think, since his Super Bowl years. But he got to Super Bowl 49, and I think his weapons started to tail off a little bit after that. You had Jimmy Graham for a little bit, but really, he's starting to get some young, good, viable weapons, and if he can, utilize those, it's going to be great for him.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we don't typically talk NHL.
Not typically.
Yeah. So, I know you're not too big with NHL. I'm not that big either. But one of the big things that affected the Bruins was that Tuukka Rask ended up leaving the bubble to go attend a family matter, and now Jaromir Halak is currently the new goalie for the Bruins. I've heard people, I've talked to people who are more invested hockey fans, and they've said this guy could be a solid starter on some teams in the league, but he struggled recently. He let up 4 goals. I don't know if they were all by him, but
against the Lightning,
and that has caused them to go down 2-1 in the series. What do you think of Tuukka leaving the bubble? And then basically do you think the Bruins are going to be able to come out of this, especially having a backup goalie against a great team like the
obviously,
Lightning?
I hope we can come out of something like this. We're down 2-1.
We're down 2-1 currently. Yes.
Okay. I hope that the Bruins can come out of something like this. Tuukka Rask is a name that I've been hearing since Tim Thomas left.
Basically. From being a backup on that 2011 team to being the guy who has been leading them ever since. It's tough to see a guy like Tuukka leave. I know Tuukka has basically been the scapegoat for any Bruins loss. Unfortunately other players don't. It's not that they don't take responsibility, but the media kind of will just say, Tuukka unfortunately couldn't do it, or it's Tuukka's fault, or something like that. When other players do deserve a fair share of blame, but unfortunately that's what happens with the goalie. It's almost similar to a quarterback. If the team's struggling, the quarterback's going to get questioned. If the hockey team's struggling, and the goalie's letting up 4 goals or 3 goals, he's also going to face some scrutiny.
So what does Tuukka leaving the bubble mean for the Bruins in the future?
I think I heard a lot of people saying, there was a lot of fans that were angry about it immediately. They think that he might be a free agent because of this, because they think
free agent.
They think it's possible. That's some of the more radical ideas I've heard, but I wouldn't put it past a team to, they might just go, we needed you in this moment, and you kind of left us. Personally, from what I've heard, it's for family reasons. I believe his wife had a kid. That's the rumor I was hearing, but I'm not 100%. Sure, for that I get it completely, but
Mm-hmm.
for a guy who's been scapegoated, maybe for a lot of things, on you know, he's kind of like been unfortunately like kind of bashed by the media when he maybe doesn't deserve it all the time.
Yeah.
But that's what unfortunately happens. We're gonna have to see what the Bruins do. They're still a good team. They won the President's Trophy for best regular season record before everything happened with COVID.
Yeah.
So it's really going to depend. Are the Bruins? Do the Bruins still think that they're going to be able to gear up for a title next year if they don't win it this year, or do they think it's time to start like not maybe rebuilding but almost a retooling?
I mean, when you look at the Bruins roster, a lot of those guys have been on the team for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, and almost since the 11 team.
It would almost be hard to imagine the Bruins not rebuilding after something like this, or at least after the wave of like your guys like Chara, Marchand, Bergeron. After those guys are out the door, it's almost hard to
imagine them not doing
exactly.
That. You still got McAvoy, who's young. You still got Coyle and all those guys. It's just going to be tough though to see like what they can do. Like how, like building a hockey team, you need a lot of depth. And if they continue to lose that depth over the next couple of seasons, how long is it until they say, we're just going to have to blow it up and start over and hopefully compete, 4, 5, 6 years down the line if we can build up that talent.
You know who would be really nice right now?
Who do you think of?
Tyler Seguin.
Really?
You can't deny it. Having that guy around right now would be.
Unfortunately, that we can't do that. That's
yeah. The worst trade in Boston sports history.
Oh, jeez. There's no doubt in that. But
yep.
Yeah. So in other news in sports, the NCAA football is currently trying to figure out a way to, get back because, like the Ivy League has canceled. Many other leagues have completely canceled their seasons, but, these big college football schools who are going to pump out NFL prospects and usually generate a ton of revenue for their schools are, not going to be eligible, are possibly not going to be eligible to play their season. Now, there's been talks of the SEC kind of going against the NCAA's wishes and, taking on teams like Ohio State and all these other teams, trying to get them into their own separate league to try and play. Do you think that's gonna? Do you think the NCAA in any way is going to have a football season this year, or do you think it's too difficult?
I don't necessarily think that anything like schools switching conferences will happen. I don't think there's going to be a college football season this year. I think it's sad. I think there's more to it than just assuming that the NCAA did nothing to try.
Yeah.
Because college sports is a lot tougher to deal with than professional sports. I'm sure there's a lot more teams.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people. They're not just people, they're student athletes. I think putting the safety of those kids and the coaches and everyone is probably the best priority for the NCAA.
I agree completely. Yeah, I want to see the players play, and personally I would say that if there's any way these guys can play, please freaking play, because college football is almost the lifeblood of this country.
And it goes back to what you said about like high school athletes not having their seasons. It's almost the same thing because these guys are students. They're still kids. It could be us.
Honestly. Yeah. It's definitely a tough situation. I'd love to see college football play because it's honestly a big morale booster around the country. People look to the NFL, but NCAA is really what gets like these schools kind of in the Midwest and down south. It really kind of because
it makes voices heard.
I've talked to people from down south. I remember talking to a fan from the Carolinas who is a Clemson fan, and I was talking about NFL stuff, and he said I don't know anything about NFL. Clemson football and college football, that is their pros. Mm-hmm. They honestly, and from this kid I was talking with, he was just like, honestly, once they go to the NFL, I'm kind of done with them. I just don't know that much anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a different world down there when you're talking with these guys about that.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing up in Michigan. I have some family that all they know is Michigan State football. They don't watch pro football.
They don't watch
pro basketball. Oh well, what's to watch with the Lions?
Exactly.
Yeah, but watching a Super Bowl with them, they were rooting against Tom Brady, not because they hated the Patriots,
Because he went to Michigan.
Because he went to Michigan.
Exactly.
And it's weird that that's the only world that
and he did it 2 decades ago.
Exactly.
So
but,
I mean, it's just it's a different way of thinking about sports and sports, because these guys, all they know is college football. It's just a different mentality. It's an interesting mentality to think about it, because we think of college as almost a minor league kind of affiliate, or kind of like a training ground to get these guys to the NFL, but they almost see it as once they're in the NFL, it's almost out of sight, out of mind, which is it's always interesting.
We definitely take our professional sports a lot more serious in New England.
Definitely.
But,
I mean, but at the same time, that's because college sports, unfortunately,
it's not as big as
BC football really hasn't been big in decades, to be honest with you.
What do you got? UMass?
Yeah, that's nothing.
Exactly.
You ain't getting nothing with UMass.
Exactly.
I mean, you think of BU. I don't think, I believe BU. I think the last guy I heard to come out of BU was like Victor Cruz, and that's the last big name I've heard to come out of there.
Victor Cruz came out of UMass.
Oh, UMass?
Yeah.
Okay, my apologies. I believe
he's like one of the only notable names. That's why I remember him.
I believe it was BU. My apologies.
Andy Isabella.
Yeah, Andy. Andy Isabella's.
Yeah, I remember he had one long touchdown last year, and I was like, he's from UMass.
and then it was like, that's it.
Yep.
That's it.
So why don't we take a second to look at some of these comments?
Go for it.
There's a lot. Tyler Tucker says studs. What's up, Tyler? I hope you're enjoying the show. Wish you could be here, bud.
Yeah. So the whole deal with Tyler is, unfortunately, he isn't at Bryant this year, but we're gonna have him on the show whenever he can make it on. We're always happy to have Tyler on the show.
Tyler, this show is not complete without you.
It is not.
We miss you.
Whenever we can have you on, Tyler, we're gonna have you on.
100%. You are still down to the wire.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we were also gonna, be doing the show tonight in Koffler, but unfortunately, we had some issues with some of the WJMF staff. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. So it's kind of been hectic being back here on campus. I mean, things have been kind of crazy. So
just a little bit. Could be crazier.
Could it?
I mean, if we all had COVID, it could be crazier.
I mean, I guess that would make things a lot crazier, but. It's gonna be a very interesting semester, to say the least. And I mean, I'd say that we're gonna try to get a lot of people to possibly make guest appearances on this show. Gonna make this show as interesting as possible for the fall.
Definitely, we have lots in store for you guys when it comes to guest appearances.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna try to still stick to a schedule of Wednesdays and Fridays. Whenever we can get on, even if one of us has an idea for something and we kind of just do it, but we throw it up. It's gonna just be like, we're just gonna try to do the best we can. We're gonna try to grow down to the wire this fall, and we're just gonna try to see where it goes.
Yes, and something else that is definitely going to be focused on is our marketing. We need to get out there. So for all of you guys that are watching,
if you're not
yet
following us,
everybody make sure you're educating people about what Down to the Wire is, because if the name's out there, that helps us out.
Absolutely.
A lot.
And if you're not already yet following, which I don't know why you'd be watching a Facebook Live if you're not already following the Instagram,
hit that button.
But follow that Instagram. Come on, we need you guys to follow. We need to pump up the brand as much as possible, and let's kind of elevate things this fall. Let's get our Instagram going. Let's get a lot of things going. I'm very excited for where the future is looking with this, but I mean, we need you guys to get involved. If you guys have any ideas, let us know. DM us.
Be active.
Comment on our videos. Give us ideas. Never be afraid to ask a question or anything like that, because we need that stuff. I mean, that stuff is going to help us make better content.
Definitely.
So, trying to think. It is currently 7:54. It's almost 8 o'clock. I'd officially say we're down to the wire.
We're down to the wire.
We are officially down to the wire.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, that'd be something that Tyler would be saying right now, but we are officially down to the wire, which means we're going to go back through everything just briefly and kind of go over everything we talked about throughout the past hour, and just kind of give you guys a quick rundown for anything you missed. So this is our first time back, doing a live show since April, which obviously feels great. It's been, I believe 5 months at this point. Yeah. It's about to be September soon, so it's been a long time coming. And it's great to be back. But there's a lot to talk about. NBA is currently in the bubble. It's that actually is something we weren't even aware of yet coming in April. But NBA is now back down the bubble in Orlando. A lot of stuff has been going on, politically and culturally around the world, and it was causing some boycotts. But NBA is back now, and it's going to be very interesting to see like what this does for the title run, and how this is going to affect players' careers and things down the line. But that's going to be a very interesting aspect of it all. Also in baseball, we talked about the Red Sox and how they really aren't much to talk about at all this year. Unfortunately, just Ron Renicky is not Alex Cora, and we hope he can be. I don't care about the whole Houston thing for Alex Cora's sake. He was a great manager in Boston. If we can bring him back to the Red Sox, he was a great atmosphere in that clubhouse, and if we can get him back, that'd be the best for us.
We talked about the MLB's disaster of a COVID response.
Yeah, plethora of teams just testing positive. I mean, it's been a mess for MLB. Rob Manfred, get out.
Get him out.
We need him out now.
Yeah.
The Miami Marlins have been, almost like a miracle team at this point. I mean, for a team that has been statistically, horrible for, as long as I can remember, almost as long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
I mean, they have been, killing it as of late. I mean, they've cooled down a little bit. They're currently 14-12, so only 2 games above 500. But they're only 2 games back of the division. I mean, and in a division like this, a losing record might have a shot at making the playoffs this year. It's an expanded playoff, and if Miami Marlins are in it, it's going to be that's pretty interesting because I mean, you think of a team like Miami, they haven't been in it in a very very long time. I think it was 2003 was the last time they were in the playoffs.
And I think what was it, a month ago? They had 14 players testing positive.
And the fact that they won all the games that they did is incredibly impressive and shows a lot of character for these guys.
Yeah,
that is incredible for them. We also just I think talked further about MLB and just about the disaster that Rob Manfred has been, and how he just unfortunately doesn't represent the players right now, and how unfortunately as a marketing fit he just isn't that guy.
We talked about the new man under center in New England,
Cameron Newton.
Newton.
It's gonna be a very interesting development in New England. He's gonna be a very drastically different quarterback than Tom Brady, and we're gonna have to really see how Belichick designs the system for him. Is it gonna look something like what Lamar had in Baltimore, or is it gonna reflect something that we've seen more of a New England traditional offense? We also talked about Jamal Adams to Seattle, bolstering that Seattle Seahawks defense. I've heard people talk about him being almost maybe the solution, possibly how we were talking about Kyle Duggar, but Jamal Adams is a very proven, is a very proven safety at his position. He's a very strong, physical player, and he might be the type of guy that could lock up a Kittle on the San Francisco 49ers. He might be that solution for them. So we also talked about the NHL. Tuca unfortunately bailing out on the Bees, and now they're down 2-1, in the series to the Lightning. I mean, Jaro Halak is going to have to step up his game over these next couple if he's going to want to, possibly be the next man up come next year if the Bruins decide to move on from Tuca, and they're also going to have to see, how he's going to deal with all this coming up. And I mean, it's going to be a tough series. I mean, the Lightning are no team to mess with.
And one thing we missed, we also talked about the comeback of the XFL.
Yeah, we did.
Its potential in the future.
Mm-hmm. I mean, led by a great personality in Dwayne The Rock Johnson, they have a great shot at a comeback. And I mean, go St. Louis Battlehawks.
Oh yeah, go Battlehawks.
Go St. Louis.
And last but not least, we talked about what could have been a college football season.
Yeah, unfortunately, things aren't looking too great in the college world. Just because you're seeing all these colleges, UNC Chapel Hill, Notre Dame, all these colleges are shutting down. And to think if classes aren't going to be able to go over them, how is having all these guys on a football team hitting each other? How is it going to possibly work out? It's going to be very difficult to see that work.
A disaster.
Definitely. So it's going to be very difficult. Sports is definitely a very weird time right now. Never used to really seeing hockey in August and September. Not used to seeing basketball around this time either. You're not usually used to seeing that until the end of October. You're going to be seeing some late time baseball. It's going to be a very interesting fall because we're going to have all 4 sports. If the NFL is able to go, which we hope. If all 4 sports are a go, it is going to be a very interesting fall. There's going to be a lot to talk about, and we're gonna be really happy to talk with you guys about it.
And it's definitely making up for the past 6 months of having absolutely no sports.
Yeah,
we love it.
Yeah, and also the past 6 months of us unfortunately not being able to provide you guys with the best possible content. I'm gonna try to still be putting out those polls on social media. We're gonna be trying to do these shows whenever we can, but from I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Carter, from Smithfield.
From Smithfield, Rhode Island, and Newport House, and this has been Down to the Wire. See you guys.